Thank you. Hello? Can you hear me? This is a favorite topic of mine. I actually like politics. I like following politics. So when I started paying attention to what was the type that was involved with him, it became a little more interesting. So, a little background. Typography influences your every buying decision, from the smallest items, such as dish soap, to what restaurants you frequent, based on the, based on the menu, to what car you buy, the logo, the color, the identity, and marketing. Huge influencers. Why not an election? I'm going to start with early campaign buttons. Historically, campaign buttons. Ooh, it got dark. My slide got dark, so I was like looking. Okay. Historically, campaign buttons have only been around about, as we know it, is for 200 years. Remember, elections are relatively new, a concept introduced when the colonies gained their independence from England. Prior to that time, there were only kings and conquerors. So on the screen here, I'm actually going to, can I take this off? Oh, thank you. I just can't see my, it is dark up here. A little dark up here. These are, am I on? Okay. Okay. These are example of Abraham Lincoln's political buttons. One of the first examples of type added to an image, because education was being emphasized more and the population were able to read. Typically, brass with type, and were meant to wear as jewelry. And the more elaborate ones, the better the supporter. It's all tied to money. He even had handed out pennies with his image on them, hence his face on our current currency. Paper buttons were also favored. The upper left button was from his first election. Homespun, the image is dark and the type is hand lettered. The second is of the election of the second is the official election button. Notice the difference, color. Red, white, and blue. The picture is clearer, and notice the type is a sans serif. And also capitals. You'll notice that a little later. Sorry. It screams, I am the president. The third button is a collective party button. In the United States, there's a two-party system, and the Republican Party was created as the party of the people, with the abolition of slavery as its key campaign promise. It's changed a lot since then. Campaign buttons were all the rage. Most buttons were red, white, and blue. Not much has changed today, except maybe the slogans. These buttons show... Thank you. Thank you very much. These buttons show a very distinctive design pattern, typically red, white, and blue, either on the top or the bottom, reminiscent of the flag. The black and white buttons are not official buttons. So I can do this. Can I come back to this one? I'm sorry. Oh, there we are. Okay. Black and white buttons are not official buttons, but handed out at rallies by the organizers without access to color resources, but direct and to the point. Take a look at the bottom middle button. It's Grover Cleveland. That button is actually from 1884 and has your first texting on it. Are you? This slide shows how easy it is to make up your own slogans, run for office, and even add swag to your button to stand out. Bottom right corner, that's for Romney. That's a Romney button that they they exploited. And what would actually happen if you decided to run for office on the font of your choice? Thanks to Bill Davis for the following images. For mayor, using the mayoral font, Ravenel, or even dog catcher, using the dog catcher font by ITC Weber Hand, or even school board. You could make your own slogan using school board script line. Now, we're going to go back to. Now, this slide represents a historic election between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. Traditional buttons, red, white, and blue. Nixon lost this election. But check out the button in the lower middle is an indication of how campaign buttons were changing. Don't be a jackass. John F. Kennedy's nickname was Jack. There you go. And not for the better. Here is a series of anti-pro-Nixon buttons from 1972, reflecting public opinion. You got it. After these buttons, campaign buttons and campaign design remain static, tied to the central image, neither text on the bottom, top or bottom, or encircling the image. I just couldn't resist this slide. I'm sorry. It was just too good. 2008. We're going to talk about now. We're going to come current. 2008, the election marked a departure from the typical designs we had been seeing. Image in the center, type around the outside. We have a central image. The Obama campaign hired Saul Sender, a Chicago-based designer, and this identity changed the political landscape. A clean, direct, easily integrated into all campaign and collateral materials. The O represents Obama in his last name. The blue, the sky, red, America, and white, the rising of a new dawn. Now for the text. They paired it in 2008 with a sans serif, a serif to represent approachability, and the heavier font with the heavier serifs, the ability to get the job done while keeping in touch with the people. Did it resonate? Yes. Let's look at the earning potential of Obama's logo in 2008. Married with Heffler's Gotham, and the 2000 logo was redesigned for a softer look with Dart Hunter Studios' Jubilant. Abandon all you know about the candidates. I know this is going to be hard. Let's break it down to their logos and look at the viability as candidates based on their earning potential. And remember, Republicans typically outspend Democratic candidates. 2008, Obama ran for presidency for the first time against John McCain. Two logos that look vastly different, both breaking the mold. McCain's logo was designed with his presidential campaign specifically. His team abandoned all his traditional materials and decided to go with OVO Design Group and a safe choice with Optima. They thought the American people would recognize and welcome the font paired with the navy and gold reminding them of McCain's military service and a nod to the flag flying above his name. Two totally different logos. Let's look at their earning potential. Obama's logo raised in 2008 $750 million. This is $750 million. Now you have to remember, there was a change in election finance laws. Citizens United allowed political action committees or PACs to donate unlimited funds to a candidate, changing the landscape of political funding. And McCain only raised about $237 million, a complete reversal of the Republican Democratic initial spending. It was also the first time a Democrat ever outraised a Republican in a presidential election. And it also showed the earning power of the right symbol. It resonated with the people. They associated with it. Kind of crazy. A lot of money. Let's take it to 2012. We have Obama. He has running for re-election with a fresh new look, created by Jubilant. Updating the font and retaining the now iconic O played well against his opponent's use of Trajan and Whitney. Romney used the traditional red, white, and blue, and navy blue, which is interesting. Now, I could not find the designer for the Romney logo at all, but I was able to find several other references and comparisons to his logo and how corporate it looked and felt. Aquafresh toothpaste. That was a favorite. Ramada Hotels, and even Romney, Wyoming looking for a logo designer. 2012 was a very important election for the Republican Party. They needed to win. They made it a number one priority to remove Barack Obama from office and his progressive agenda. They put their money up, and raised the greatest amount raised in any election. But would it be enough? 2012 saw Barack Obama break the $1 billion mark, the first and only time in history that this has ever been done. And Romney was close behind with $992 million. Combined, these two logos raised over $2 billion, yet Obama's logo was still the strongest. Now let's take what we know and apply it to today's election, and let's start with the Republican candidates. Oh yeah, there were a lot of them. The election we're currently watching actually started in July of 2015 with 17 candidates. Each one managed to get on the Republican ticket, submit their paperwork on time. But let's see who remains after February 1st. February 1st is a very important date in American politics because you have the January primaries, and you have also had 6 months to raise your name recognition and raise some money. And try to count on your voter support, typically in your own home state, and build up a national base. We have 12 candidates who remained February 1st in 2016. You have 5 who have already dropped out. These are their logos. Quite diverse and colorful, some using the traditional color palettes, others tries to set themselves apart with color and font choices. These 12 candidates raised about $330 million by February 1st. And now, this is all money that they kept in their PACs or in their accounts and was paid out before February 1st when Super Tuesday happens on the beginning of February, and then you're down to 7. If you look at how much is raised in the donations, you'll find the filings. Ted Cruz is actually number 1, and Jeb Bush is number 2. This is of April. Jeb Bush has dropped out. This is just 60 days later. Only 4 candidates remain of the original 17. And then as of 2 weeks later from that, we're down to the final 3. Let's focus on these final 3. You have 3 vastly different logos in 3 different messages carried by 3 different fonts. First one is Ted Cruz. His design team chose Electra, a serif pairing it with a medium gray, maybe gray to convey a softness, and the font of firmness. Either way, this logo raised the most money. Although it raised the most money, it could not convince the people to vote for him. Maybe it was a little too monochromatic, indicating a lack of personality of the candidate, in my case. Also, it's a lowercase, and in psychological research, uppercase is more trustworthy. John Kasich. Here he uses color, a nod to the American flag, and his use of Noisette S. Book Heavy to indicate how serious this election is. Does not resonate with the voters. This logo earns the least amount of revenue in the final 3. And then we come to Donald Trump. Here we go. Donald Trump, very corporate, looks like a clothing label. Resonates with the voters. Traditional red, white, and blue use of, I can't even pronounce this. I'm sorry. And I went over it with Anne. Accents, Gothic, grotesque, bold, extended. In FF Meta Bold are the font choices. Thank you, Petra. And then there is his running mate logo. This logo is very, very reminiscent of the Polo logo. If everyone knows Polo with the flag. We're looking at somebody who doesn't have an original thought. Shh, I didn't say that. Now, a funny thing happened when I was trying to find out who is Trump's lead designer on the team, who designed each logo, and I found this. Not a single designer was given credit to any of his logos, but a free contest where you can design a logo for the Trump campaign for prestige. There it is. This has 4 pages of logos. If you want to go through this contest, it's actually quite interesting. And ironically, I found the same reference to the other presidential candidate whom no designer is attributed to either. I wonder if they're the same designer. Come on, Aquafresh. I know we all use it. Now let's go to the Democrats. Smaller playing field, only 5 candidates were in serious contention. Lincoln Chafee, Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, Bernie Sanders, and Jim Webb. Here are the logos for the Democratic candidates. If you look at the 5, and you start at the top, we have Chafee's logo. If you look at the bottom, Jim Webb. Those are the most fussy to start with. Chafee's logo looks like a wine label, and Webb has much too much going on, especially with a little star above the eye. Doesn't relate well. Let's look at O'Malley's logo. A little too corporate, a nod to having a conversation, but not strong enough, and the italic distracts. It also looks like it could have been an app. Clinton and Sanders both base their logos contains a nod towards Obama's groundbreaking 2008 design. Hillary moving forward and Bernie's waves representing America. Let's look at the earnings of each of these candidates as of February 1st. As you notice, Hillary Clinton is in the lead with a little over $233 million, and Bernie Sanders coming up quite closely with $100 million. And this is as of February 1st. All the rest, not even. We already know, based on this, who the final 2 will be. By far, Clinton and Sanders have raised the most money, but let's talk about what made each logo special. Hillary Clinton, a single H. In hopes of identifying with Hillary, used her first initial, the strong H, the capital H, strong clean lines created by Michael Barut, and used sharp sands in all her collateral materials. The H also lent itself, as you can see, to overlaying images, depending on what they needed it for. Bernie Sanders. Ben Ostrower and Camille Chafee, trying to identify with the voters, also used the first name of the logo and the same name and the same colors as Obama's iconic logo. Also chooses Jubilant, Obama's redesigned font for the by Darden Studios for their identity, and it works. These 2 Democratic candidates, between them, raised more money than the entire Republican Party as of the last Federal Election Committee or the FEC raised, or what and they raised the following. Clinton has raised $327 million to date. And Bernie, before he dropped out of the after the primary, had raised $237 million. Today there are 2 candidates left, and each logo has raised the following. We have 2 logos left. One is Hillary and one is Trump. And here's what they've made. Knowing Republicans outspend Democrats typically 2-1. Remember that. It's typically 2-1. In any local and presidential elections, these numbers are very telling and indicate a level of unease felt by the candidate, whom in 2012 managed to give over $992 million. They've only given $127 million this election cycle so far. Hopefully, this is an indication who will win the election, which is still 60 days away, which is kind of crazy. So we've been in this election cycle since July of 2012, and we still have 2 months left to go. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of tired about it. In conclusion, fonts are critical in creating a graphic identity and should be treated with the same care as logo, color, size, form, and texture to enhance the message, trust, progress, and approachability. Thank you. Told you I didn't get you time.